Yeah, we can pretty much forget the Twilight era. Robert Pattinson, you kicked ass. The Batman. The Batman was directed by Matt Reeves and stars Robert Pattinson and Paul Dano. And it tells the story of Batman, who's forced to investigate a string of murders from a sadistic serial killer known as the Riddler. Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for making that little click and taking the time out of your day to do that on this video. Today I'm going to be talking about, of course, the Batman. We finally get another rendition. It's finally here, another Batman adaptation. This is actually one of my most anticipated films of the year. I know I haven't really been talking about it that much, but it is. See, once the Bat flick got canceled, which was actually going to be a part of the Justice League universe, and it was going to be written and directed and starring Ben Affleck, I was a little crushed. You know, I mean, not as much as most people. I didn't mind the Justice League universe. I really do like the joint universe. But whenever they canceled all that, yeah, I would have liked to seen more of that universe. I really would have. I was a little disappointed ever since Ben Affleck pretty much hung up the cape. We'll never know what that universe would have entailed. Like I said, I would have enjoyed seeing the more of the Justice League universe, more of the shared universe, but it wasn't so, and we got Pattinson instead. So was this worth it? Was this up to expectations? Did it triumph over the other Batman renditions? Let's find out. Let's start off with the positives for the Batman. First of all, I've got to say, Robert Pattinson, you can pretty much check off the Twilight Saga off your resume. We really ought to pretty much forgive him because this film, the way he played Batman, oh my gosh, the way he played this character was so brutal. He was so forceful. He was so dark, tense. The way he played this character off, I was surprised. I was surprised. Not that I'm saying that I watched any of the Twilights. I mean, just looking at the trailers at the time when those films came out, it was just stupid. I never enjoyed chick flicks, and vampires don't sparkle, so case closed. I really do think this film really crushed any of that he had, and for good.
I'm vengeance.
But hell yeah, I mean, the way Robert Pattinson played this character off was close to kind of how Christian Bale did. I did kind of get a Christian Bale vibe. You can ask anybody that knows me. I love the Nolan trilogy. Maybe that's why I'm kind of comparing. I can't fathom on how satisfied I was with the way this guy played this character and the Batman. He really nailed it. He really did. Even though he didn't have the voice changer in this, or he didn't growl like he did in the Nolan verse, he had this thing to where when he would suit up, or before he would suit up, obviously, he would put this black paint around his eyes. I like that. I don't really recall them actually doing that in any of the other Bat flicks, in any of the other Batman renditions. I actually like that. It kept more of a secret identity to him. But yeah, he was a perfect ringer, and he really shocked me. And again, people, let's just forget the Twilight era. Let's just forgive him and enjoy him in this. And hopefully he'll continue and just enjoy the brutalness that he brought to this character. And the story was very noir. It was a very noir detective story. And I hear that's what a lot of people actually wanted. And never in a Batman movie before this do I remember being like this. In a way, I've only seen this once, but I remember a great deal of it. It kind of reminded me of the movie Seven, because some of the brutal acts that the Riddler would pull on people, this is a PG-13 rated film, so you still don't get anything too hardcore, but I swear there was so much instigations of certain things to where if they would have recut this, And I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Now that we got this whole Snyderverse trend online, and that we actually got that film of Justice League, I wouldn't be surprised that they'll come out with this on Blu-ray and DVD and whatever and streaming with the original cut. People will probably petition, let's get an R-rated cut, and they'll probably do something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I could see them reshaping this and them actually have the guts to show everything. So yeah, it's pretty brutal, especially like all the instigations. Now I should have said this before, I got sidetracked, but this is actually not really connected to the others because of the casting switch. But I heard that because of that, they don't really address it. But this is actually set in another multiverse. They actually set this on another multiverse, so that's why it's like completely different. So in a way it kind of is, but it isn't. Get back to the dark tone. It had sort of a horror vibe. I felt like I was watching a horror movie in a sense. Not really necessarily a Batman film, but at the same time, Batman was front and center. And that's what I liked. Like a lot of the other renditions, the villains was mostly the main characters and Batman always took a back seat. But this one, he was actually front and center. Actually, all of them was. Even all the villains, the Penguin and the Riddler, especially the Riddler. It had a very horror-themed vibe. Every time when the light, the bat signal, would show up in the sky, this happened at the beginning where criminals was doing their thing, and they would look up, and they'd say, oh shit, we better get out of here. And then they'd look in the distance out in a dark alley. They'd think he's coming. He would come and bash their faces in any time, and they'd be like, oh, we gotta get out of here. I really like that. And the way the Riddler would kill people, it just had a very horror vibe. Like some of the scenes where they would be investigating some of the murders. And again, referring back to that Seven movie, it'd be kind of like that. And we all know that was a hardcore psychological horror thriller. Now, I've only seen that once, but I remember some deal of it. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. It kind of took me back whenever I watched Seven. And speaking of the Riddler, by Paul Dano. Oh God, this guy nailed it. Up until this point, all we had of the Riddler was the Jim Carrey version in terms of the movie verse. I'm not going to talk about the TV show Gotham, but up until this point, in terms of the movies, all we had was the Jim Carrey, the very silly, goofy, you know how Jim Carrey was back in the 90s. That was Batman Forever. But this Riddler and Paul Dano, damn, he gave me a whole new perspective. He was very sadistic. When he reveals himself, you see the craziness in him. But up to certain points, you see a very serious vibe to him. There's a very plausible reason behind the Riddler's motives. It wasn't this silly, crazy, wacky, batshit thing, pun intended. It's actually something that really stood out. Something that really fit the character description of what this rendition of the Riddler was. And for that, I applaud it. I really do. I applaud it. You see a very serious character, and then at the same time, you see he's just got a definite screw loose. And this guy delivered. It was just worth the wait seeing another Riddler adaptation. And fun fact, side note, before The Dark Knight Rises came out, before they settled on Bane, they was actually going to use the Riddler as the main villain for that film. I don't know what changed, but before they settled on Bane in the Nolan universe, that's who they were going to choose. But again, worth the wait. It just wasn't a moment when he was on the screen that I felt disappointed. I was like this the whole time. This is satisfying. I've always wanted to see something like this. Oh yeah. And the score was perfect too. It had sort of a classical piano, sound to it. It was very classical. The way the score would divide it up between the characters, so usually you could differentiate the score for the villain separate from the hero. And in this, it kind of fit them both because it was kind of the same. It fit them both, and that rarely happens. In most superhero movies, they always have a theme song for the hero and a theme song for the villain. They kept it the same, but it worked. Again, that's very rare. And the action was nuts. This definitely put a satisfactory level to my action high. Especially the scene, and this is in the trailer, so I'm not ruining anything, but especially the scene where Batman was chasing after Penguin on the road and all those cars being flipped and just big explosions and truck tanks and all that. And when Penguin says, "Ha ha, I got you, I got you." Oh, no, you didn't. He's coming anyway through the fire. That was epic. That was the most epic scene in this whole entire film. Other than the final scene, but still, that was pretty epic to me. The action was pretty good. It was really nuts. It was, yeah, I was in action heaven, movie action heaven. The Batman is definitely a fun watch. I didn't have too many problems of it, except, and let's slide into the mix, and I only have one. Not many people had a problem with this, and that's why this is going to be a very small nitpick for myself, just for me. I mean, we're all different. We view movies differently. And this is me coming off of the Nolanverse because I'm such a huge fan of it, as I mentioned before. I wasn't really that much of a fan of when Batman would come out of the shadows before a fight. It would just show him walking and then finally start fighting. And I'd say the first time it worked. But after a while, it kind of got tiresome. And I just wanted him to appear out of nowhere and then start fighting. I didn't really care for that much. But like I said, the first time it was pretty interesting because, as I mentioned before, the whole horror vibe of criminals thinking that Batman was looking in the shadows, and then he actually comes up for the first time, like the first scene when he does that was satisfying. But after a while, I'd say they didn't really do it that much. But I'm just, like I said, I'm just so used to him just kicking ass and taking names right away. That's all I'm saying. But other than that, film was awesome. It was very satisfying. It was worth the wait. It was great villains. A great performance by Robert Pattinson, not only as Batman, but as Bruce Wayne as well. If you're a Batman fan and is up for some good ass-kicking, taking names, you will not be disappointed. It's definitely worth being put on a pedestal. So the Batman, what was your thoughts on it? Was this up to your expectations? Did you like the whole direction that they went with? Did you like the way they played the Riddler off? Did you like the way Robert Pattinson played Batman? Was this your favorite adaptation of Batman, or do you prefer any of the others? Was this just not for you? Was this just not in your ballpark at all? Leave me your comments down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, once again for watching this video. Like, subscribe, comment, and share, the big 4. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.